But yeah, that's always been an interesting thing about Schmaltz too, and that was something the Blackhawks just went through with Kirby Dach before they traded him to Montreal. Is whether or not Nick Schmaltz is going to be a center in the long run, because can he get it done at the dot? I know some people think that's an overrated stat, and sure, not all faceoffs are equally important, right? But there are times where you need to go and win that offensive zone draw or win that defensive zone draw on the penalty kill and get the boys out of a situation. That's just something that needs to happen from time to time. There is an importance in faceoffs. And, when you give someone like Nick Schmaltz that type of money, I think you kind of feel like he should be your number one center. So do you think he can do that long term? I know he did win a career high 47.7% of his faceoffs last year. So definitely an improvement. Is there a concern, or do you feel like he can work it out?
I think I'm going to give much at the wing much anymore. I mean, because I think the Coyotes have a strategy and plan of, we talked, Carl and I have talked about, center depth and everything like that. The Coyotes the last couple of years had none, and that's kind of why like Schmaltz was there and did what he could. But now, like, they're kind of going in a situation where, like, okay, now we're building our prospects at center. Barrett Hayton is in there. They just got Jack McBain and Nate Smith to kind of help bolster the center. They just drafted Logan Cooley and Connor Geekie. They now at center for the next few years are going to be set. So, like, they're kind of trying to put all that stress off of Nick Schmaltz.
Not a bad idea.
I will also say Clayton Keller is making more money, so he has always been the lightning rod for overpaid player. He threw that shackle off like this past season when he just exploded onto the scene. But Schmaltz has never really had that kind of expectation. The contracts that John Shake signed were interesting, and I think they're mostly working out. I'm happy with the Keller deal. I'm happy with the Schmaltz deal, even though he's not performing as a number one center. Happy with the Jacob Chikrin deal, and I was happy with the Christian Dvorak deal until he got traded to Montreal.
Yeah, I mean, that feels like a good situation for Nick Schmaltz to be in, right? And like you said, Robyn, there's a lot of this center depth that should be coming up in the next couple of years. So it's kind of, I feel like not a stress-free situation, because I'm sure Nick Schmaltz would like to play center. He's played there his whole career. But at the end of the day, if you're getting the job done, regardless of the position, you're going to take that. So it seems like a good situation for Nick Schmaltz, who's still a relatively young player to be in. But all in all, I mean, looking back at this trade, Blackhawks lost it. What do you know? What do you know?
I had someone try and argue that the fact that Dylan Strome was paid less means that the Blackhawks kind of won. And I'm like, no, the fact that Schmaltz is going to be with the team and Blackhawks got nothing. I wonder. I think you guys probably won the Murphy for Yarmelson trade, though. Just because,
that one ended up working out well. Sorry to cut you off.
Oh, no, yeah. I just remember that era. A lot of Coyotes and Blackhawks trades.
Oh, my gosh. The Blackhawks were, I swear, for like 2 years there, it was the Hurricanes and the Coyotes. That was it. Like, every time we'd play those two teams, it would be like, it was basically the former team. Like, that's how it was looking. It was crazy there for a while.
I think, I forgot the exact name, but I know like the combined city name that Cat Silverman called them, like Shit Crazona. Just like it just happens to be like, okay.
Yeah. You had Jordan Osterley for a little bit too, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
There would just be random ones that would pop up. Antti Ranta, like it was just all over the place. Yeah, it happened a lot.
Hinestroza for a while.
Yarmelson.
Yeah. That one was – I do want to talk about that trade for 1 second, though, because when that trade happened, Blackhawks fans lost their marbles, lost their absolute marbles. Like, Nick Hjalmarsson was the heart and soul. Guy was blocking shots with his neck and playing with a collar out there. It was the definition of doing anything to get the job done. And then slowly, like, Connor Murphy got off to a tough start his first year. That was wound up being Joel Quenneville's last, and it was a dicey first year, and everybody's like, oh boy, this is who we got for Nicholas Hjalmarsson. And then Murphy has steadily become the Blackhawks' best defenseman over the past 3 or 4 years. He did have a down year this year, but even when Duncan Keith was still on the team the past 2 seasons, Connor Murphy was the best defenseman for the Blackhawks. So that trade ended up working out all right, even though that's funny how that looked. Like at the time, we thought that was going to be a for sure L. I don't know. I never know with the Blackhawks nowadays, guys.
Yeah, I just remember at the time thinking that the Coyotes rushed Murphy and ruined him, and he was never going to be good because he was just rushed. And I was like, well, I'm right that they rushed him. And thankfully he was able to recover. And like a couple of years later, turned into a phenomenal defenseman. But Hjalmarsson was a very big part of the Coyotes too. Like he wasn't here for long, but he was
Awesome,
well loved by the fan
Awesome,
base. And Oliver Ekman-Larsson, like loved the guy, like loved playing with him and seeing them together. That was always really fun. But yeah, when Hjalmarsson wasn't re-signed and then the team traded OEL, it feels like a mini era of the Coyotes ended there.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's talk about for just a little bit the tankathon though, because
right, I forgot our 2 teams suck.
yeah, because the Blackhawks, they pretty much sold their entire team this offseason. They're kind of now joining the Coyotes in the tank hard for Bedard sweepstakes.
They blew it up in a really fun way, I have to say. Like the Coyotes,
fun? This is fun. I mean, maybe for you two.
Yeah. No, the Coyotes traded their captain and their best player for a draft pick and acquired 3 older veterans. So yeah, seeing another team go like full like cartoon character with a TNT like mallet pushing down was fun to see.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. I mean, a complete blow up in the past couple of weeks. I mean, and it was it leaves me feeling hopeful but still very sad, because while I do like what the Blackhawks did in the 2022 draft, they started the day with no picks and ended up with 3. And I'm hopeful for those players. At the end of the day, I still think we forced the Alex DeBrincat trade. Like, it wasn't something that 100% needed to happen. And even how Kyle Davidson was talking about the trade leading up to it, like he was saying, we're not going to force it. We're not going to settle for anything less than we want. And to hear him say after the fact that he still felt that was like the highest possible return that he could have got for DeBrincat, it was just like, why did we do this? So I'm hopeful for the direction we're taking. It's going to be a while, I'll tell you that though. But yeah, I mean, a full blow up. I mean, trading Kirby Dach to trading DeBrincat, not bringing back Dylan Strome, just an endless amount of moves. And now it's truly Kyle Davidson's era. It's his era 100%. He has his fingerprints all over it. And he seems confident in what he's done so far. And to be fair, I will give him credit. What he's done, as frustrating as it may be, it shouldn't be that surprising, because he did kind of outline this plan when he first took over and said, listen, we know we need to build back up through the draft better. We haven't developed someone from our minor league team in like 8 years. We need to focus on that, get better at the development process. So, you know, we shouldn't be too surprised with the moves that they've made, but yeah, it's for sure his time. And I'm going to say, if it doesn't work out in 4 to 5 years, a lot of Blackhawks fans are going to be pissed, especially if Alex DeBrincat is lighting it up in Ottawa or wherever he ends up, because Artemi Panarin was painful enough to let go of. And if Alex DeBrincat does that and the Blackhawks don't, if these prospects don't pan out and the rebuild doesn't truly work, it's going to be feeling worse than going back to square one.
Yeah, the absolute big hope in all of this, and the Coyotes get included on this, and a few other teams, is again that big ticket I mentioned, Connor Bedard. Is like that. That's what everyone's trying to go for this upcoming next draft, 2023 draft. Like it's from what I'm hearing, everyone is saying this is the kind of player that will turn around a franchise like almost instantly. So, like, I mean, that's the hope, right?
Yeah, 100%. And I was literally even thinking to myself before we were doing the show, I was like, we could just scream at each other for 30 minutes about who wants Connor Bedard more. Like that could just be the whole outline of the show. Like, no, I want Bedard more. No, I want Bedard more. Like that could just be the whole thing because that's basically the storyline of our 2 seasons, and we're not even close to training camp yet.
Oh yeah. That brings up an important question. Do you think the Blackhawks are going to get worse? Because I know we didn't really think the Coyotes were going to make any moves before the start of last year's training season or training camp. And then the team shipped out Christian Dvorak. And, there's a couple of big names on Chicago. Do you think there's going to be more trades to come?
I don't think so. I don't think it's going to happen. I could be totally wrong, but I don't think it's going to happen this offseason. I think the Blackhawks, they do respect Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews' careers, and they obviously should, right? I mean, they've been here forever, brought 3 Stanley Cups to the city, will forever go down in history and have their jerseys raised whenever they decide to retire. So they kind of deserve that respect, and the Blackhawks front office want to have open dialogue with them throughout this process, and they've had conversations already. And it seems like they want to give both of them potentially. I don't want to say they're going to be traded at the deadline, but I mean, with everything we just did, it's looking pretty darn likely that Kane seems a little bit more likely than Toews, but it still seems pretty unlikely that either of them are going to get a contract once their current deal is up at the end of next season. So if there's a time to move them, it would probably be at the deadline this upcoming season. And that would also still give them a farewell tour per se in Chicago. And also this team is going to stink. No one's going to want to come see these games, but guess what? It could be the last time you see Patrick Kane and Jonathan Toews play. So come on down to the United Center and pay $10 for tickets. Like that's going to be the pitch, right? And I think, it makes a lot of sense for various different reasons, but it does seem, I still like it hasn't even sunk in fully that Jonathan Toews and Patrick Kane, their time in Chicago, it's ticking, and it looks like it could be coming to an end here. It really hasn't settled in, but with what the Blackhawks have done, all signs are kind of pointing in that direction. But no, I don't think it's going to happen this summer. They've had conversations, and their agent actually, Pat Brisson, released a statement saying that they're kind of not going to make any rash decisions, and they're going to kind of let things settle and see ultimately what they want to do. It just doesn't seem like it's going to happen this offseason, if I had to guess.
Yeah, I mean, it is early in the offseason, but it feels like the buzz around a potential trade has kind of like gone down. You never know with teams. Like they could decide like 2 weeks from now and be like, you know what? Maybe like going and like starting with a new team at training camp is the best way to go about this. Get that one last cup chance. But I mean, who even knows who has the space for them at this point?
That's the interesting part too. But maybe the Blackhawks eat half of it. That's the only thing that I think of to kind of entice the offer. And look, they're not going to be pushing for contention or anything, and they're going to be able to do that. They're not in a tough financial spot for the first time in seemingly a decade. So that's one thing that could work in their favor as well.
Like I said, look forward to number 1 center, Travis Boyd, in your future. Equivalent of that.
I do want to ask, as we are now division rivals, we know that this season's going to stink probably for both of us. But what if there was anything that a Blackhawks fan would be looking for when we play the Coyotes this year? If it's a player or if there's like if there's something to pay attention to about this team, what would you think it would be? Like what's going to be the high point or something you're going to be focusing on throughout the course of the season this year? Because we know it's not going to be the wins and losses.
No. Robyn, go first.
Oh, well, you're gonna have me go first. All right. I think it's seeing first of all, like all the prospects that we want to see, obviously are not going to be there, right? Because they're all like the Coyotes are going to be in no rush for that. It's going to be much of the same as this last year. I think it's really just going to see what kind of role Clayton Keller and Nick Schmaltz and the leadership team can take as now leaders. There's going to be no official captain in the team still. It's still going to be that way.
Really?
But yeah,
probably not. No,
not for another year or two. But I think a lot of us firmly believe that Clayton Keller about a year or two down the road, will eventually be given that C. But a lot of that kind of hinges on what he does this year, right? Like, not only how he plays on the ice, but like just his overall demeanor as, navigating through another year of this rebuild.
Yeah, it was definitely like last year watching Clayton Keller emerge as a more complete player was really fun. And like just focusing on like individual players who are going to survive the rebuild. Like if you're looking at a Coyotes roster and you had 2 highlighters, you could very easily pick out like 5 players and you're like, all right, I'm going to just focus on the career journey of these 5 and everyone else, it's gravy. They're probably not going to be here in 2 years from now. And, there is a potential question mark if Dylan Guenther makes the team. I don't think he will, but it's always a chance that, the younger guy is going to show like there's nothing for him to do in minors and the team doesn't want to, leave him down there and do nothing. In which case I would say watch Dylan Guenther. But other than that, probably just, probably the players that to watch. Clayton Keller, Nick Schmaltz. Hopefully Jacob Chikrin has a nice bounce back. Vejmelka made you some things. That'd be good.
I lost a lot of money because of Karl Vejmelka last year. Like going up against like the Lightning, he pitches like a 46 save shutout. And I'm like, why? Why today? Why today? Why today?
He had 3 45-plus game.
I think I bet on 2 of them. I think I bet against the Coyotes on 2 of them.
It was insane to watch him just get like hung out to dry and still like just be getting like all of the saves. You're like, what? And then like in a game that he should win, just kind of like fall apart in like the second period.
Yeah, I get like 4 goals in like the first 3 minutes of the second period. You're like, dude, come on.
Yeah, but I would not bet against him in the future just because he has the potential to have just a ridiculous game.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it a couple of times, and they gave him a 3-year deal, right? It was something like that. I know they gave him a pretty good extension, so they feel comfortable. I mean,
it was like 2 or 3, pretty low money. They definitely need a backup for him though. Like he played really well with Scott Wedgwood, like just an older guy who you can expect to like put in games, like take the pressure off a little bit. With Sateri, not so much. Like if he was the guy and he get lit up, he would just not really be able to survive that. Which young goaltender, first season in the NHL, like was playing in a Czech second league last season and is coming in to be the starter. I can understand having some confidence issues. That is an accurate assessment of your situation.
I will also add one more thing to pay attention to, and it's an off the ice thing. And it's just a more generalized thing. Maybe Carl, you can back me up on this. Is by the end of this year, the Tempe Rio Salado project should be approved.
Yeah,
their $1.7 billion arena project that they're hoping to get built is hopefully approved by the end of this year.
Yeah, there's some current airport drama because there's always drama with the stadium being built. That's kind of a universal thing, but that'll be fun. And like the first season at ASU, that's going to be pretty exciting. Like, I know a lot of other people are making fun of it, but Arizona fans are like, hey, it's cool. It's only going to be 3 years. Might as well experience it.
It's definitely going to be unique and different. I'm curious, like, how many can they fit in there?
It's going to be just under 5,000.
Yeah. I wonder how much tickets are going to go for. Because it's
pretty expensive.
That's what I was thinking as well.
Yeah.
That's madness. That's such a tough situation to be in.
They are setting aside discounted level tickets, I'm assuming, for students.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much the discount it's going to be for, but
I mean, I will say this.
Dropping $200 to go see the Coyotes.
There are a lot of rich ASU students from Chicago, from California, and from just other countries. Like, I have not seen so many Rolls Royces owned by students anywhere else.
Wow. So maybe it'll be maybe the ticket prices are not going to be a problem.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I've said in a prior episode, if someone doesn't sell out every single game, like someone's going to be fired. Like that is a job that they should have. I have worked ticket sales before. I know that you could sell that out. You got to just try really hard. But yeah, if someone doesn't, they messed up big.
Hey, hopefully they'll be loud for you.
Oh, yeah. That's the hope. That is the hope. Anyways, though, we are overtime on this show. Jack, is there anything else that you wanted to share with our listeners, with your listeners, before we close things off?
I know we are pushing for time, so I just real quick question.
Okay.
As a Coyotes fan, would you rather have Austin Matthews or Connor Bedard? Because Bedard, yeah, he looks great, but you never know.
Yeah, Austin Matthews.
There's a novelty of having Austin Matthews home.
Yeah.
That's the
So you say Matthews?
Player being from Scottsdale, like at least a current American-born player. Like,
I would say Matthews. I'd say Matthews.
Yeah.
I was thinking that the same way. Like if I could pick one, I'd just go with the surefire thing. But that's the last thing I had. Don't want to be taking up too much more time.
No, that's great. That is, I don't think we've been asked that question, but that is the perfect question.
Anyways, though, as we close things off, Jack, why don't you go let our listeners and yours know where to find you?
Absolutely. You can find the Locked On Blackhawks podcast wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You can find it on there for free. If you want to check out the account on Twitter, you can do so at @L_O_Blackhawks. And for my personal account, you can check me out at Jack Bushman too for various different amounts of sports things and sometimes Marvel things. The new Black Panther or Wakanda Forever trailer came out this morning and I was very pumped. So that's where you can find me.
Awesome. That's once again Jack Bushman of Locked On Blackhawks. And for us at Locked On Coyotes, you can find us all over social media on Facebook, facebook.com/LockedOnCoyotes, on Instagram at Locked On Coyotes, and on Twitter at LO_Coyotes. I'm personally at Robyn_Leano. It's Robyn with a Y _LEANO. Carl Pavlock is at Carl Pavlock FFH. You can interact with all of us, ask a question you might have. We might answer right back or on a future episode of the podcast. Well, that's going to be it for today's episode. Once again, thanks everyone for tuning in. Thanks, Jack, for being a part of this awesome crossover episode. And for my Coyotes listeners out there, don't forget to stay healthy and don't forget to howl on.